Over the past 2 years, we've seen game-changing investments in our auto sector, with more than $12 billion in new investments, including more than $4 billion invested in electric vehicle production. And today's announcement is more good news for Ontario's auto sector.
GM was once the largest automaker in the United States. In the 60s, GM was manufacturing 51% of all cars made in the U.S. They became a bona fide legacy company. The problem with legacy companies, however, is their inability to innovate once they find a structure that they can stick to. They experienced their first drop in market share in the 80s after Toyota and some other high-quality brands that infiltrated the American market began to aggressively expand with their quality yet affordable vehicles. Now GM is experiencing a second death, what I believe might be their final death. They are leagues behind every major player in the EV industry, and unsurprisingly, they've been doing a lot of politics to appear like they're ahead. We spoke in an earlier video about Joe Biden's preference for legacy brands and how he's been favoring other EV makers above Tesla. Now, while that is harmless within itself, Tesla's not lacking in demand and won't be anytime soon. The major problem we're beginning to see is this shameless endorsement of GM that Biden has been sponsoring. Biden publicly announced that GM was at the forefront of the push for the United States transition to electric vehicles. You know and I know that that's the most ridiculous statement that anyone can make. The Chevy Bolt, a vehicle that GM released in 2016, is the major punchline for most EV jokes because of how terrible the vehicle is. To make matters worse, the vehicles have been recalled as a result of battery issues, and no Chevy Bolt is being produced at the moment. The truth is, GM has failed with EVs, and no matter how much politics they decide to play, they have to admit the truth, right? Welcome to the Waverly world of GM. Their CEO, Mary Barra, told CNBC that GM would catch up to Tesla by 2025, which goes in direct conflict with Biden's statement of them being ahead in the game.
Even if Ford and GM do go bankrupt, then the government will simply bail them out with some sort of too big to fail nonsense in order to save hundreds of thousands of jobs, right? That's what happens in America. Corporations make a fortune in the good times, overextend themselves with too much debt, then they get another big payday from the government. We witnessed all of this in the global financial crisis, and all the money the government bailed out for the banks was never passed on to the taxpayers. It doesn't even shock or surprise us anymore. What's really sad is we've accepted that's life. So it looks like very few people are in disagreement with me in the fact that GM and Ford will go bankrupt, as they can't deliver a decent, affordable EV, let alone at a profit. And EVs are the inevitable future. It's literally impossible for them within the legacy systems they've built. The government step in and talk to them. The executives plead their case, saying it's too big to fail. The US auto industry is the staple of this country, blah, blah, blah. They even take low shots and say things like, we're the reason we won the war. Whatever it takes, they bring out some ridiculous numbers like, we need a $100 billion bailout. GM didn't even repay all their last bailout. They literally stole all of that money from taxpayers. So the government asked, what is this money going to be used for? The truth being it's simply for the executives' golden parachutes. They all know it's game over for them. It's like trying to bail out Kodak to sell more camera film when everyone is using digital cameras. So their only chance is to say it's to pay for their transition to EVs. Okay, well, however they sell it to Congress, it's moot really. I mean, it's moot whether they get the bailout or not. These companies are still finished.
What is your take on this possibility that we need to salvage these guys or rescue them in any way?
I think Neil is totally out of touch with what the public is looking for and totally being cruel to Americans who've been working very hard. We need to bail out the auto industry. It's much better than not bailing out. And just the example you want to see is what happened with Lehman Brothers. We made a massive mistake by not bailing out Lehman Brothers. It's costing us huge amounts of money more than had we bailed them out. And it's the same with GM. If we let them go under in his kind of libertarian, laissez-faire, let the market take care of itself, let the auto industry be taken over by the foreigners, this is going to cost us much, much more, cost Americans a lot of pain, not only directly with the automakers, but all their suppliers.
If you're going to bail them out, void these union contracts. These union contracts are totally absurd. And the benefits that they pay people that aren't even working anymore, salaries they pay people that aren't working. If the American people are going to bail out these automakers, okay, for the mistakes that they made, then the American people deserve something in return. And the very least we should get out of this is to void these union contracts, tell these automakers and these unions, go back, get real, negotiate a deal that's going to help these businesses stay alive. If we bail them out, we'll be back doing it next year, the year after, if we don't do something about those unions.
I think avoiding contracts like that is not going to go over well with the UAW.
Who cares?
And it's going to make it very hard because these are the people that are doing the work for them. They do have contracts. And just going out and voiding contracts is not a particularly good way to handle workers who you need their cooperation.
Well, these people
to
are
make these things work.
bankrupt. You void contracts all the time in bankruptcy. They're bankrupt. The government doesn't pick winners and losers. The marketplace picks winners and losers. The marketplace has picked GM as a loser. Why? Well, because their cars didn't appeal to the marketplace and they were too expensive. They didn't keep up with technology. They didn't keep up with the times. So the government doesn't step in and say, you know, the marketplace said you did a bad job here, but we, the mighty titans of government, we're going to pick you as a winner anyway.
Neil,